my passion of video games with the whole wide world, back once again with another Resident Evil Village discussion. Okay, technically that is a lie, because I'm not necessarily discussing Resident Evil Village, but I will be talking about a man who I believe his background and family will make a big appearance in Resident Evil Village. And that man is Oswell E. Spencer. Who is Oswell E. Spencer? Well, sit back, relax, stay safe, and more importantly, enjoy my explanation, my history of Oswell E. Spencer. Just doing a quick check to see if everything is in order. And that lovely voice in the background proves that it is. Okay. So once again, this is not necessarily a Resident Evil Village discussion live stream. But I do believe that Oswell E. Spencer, his background and family could quite possibly make a huge appearance in Resident Evil Village. So I believe that Oswell E. Spencer is connected to Resident Evil Village. So I suppose it is technically a Resident Evil Village discussion live stream. Okay, so here we go. Oswell E. Spencer, also known as Earl Spencer. He was born in 1923. He died in August of 2006. He is a Caucasian and British. His occupation was President and CEO of Umbrella from 1968 to 2003. His status is deceased. Biological information: he is a male. He first appeared in Resident Evil, but only mentioned. The original Resident Evil game, should point out, but only mentioned. His last appearance was in Resident Evil Resistance as a mastermind. He is voiced by Adam D. Clark in Resident Evil 5, Tim Winters in Resistance, and Easy Futamata in the Japanese version of Resident Evil Resistance. His motion capture was done by Adam D. Clark in Resident Evil 5. Okay, that's all the boring stuff. This is the exciting stuff. This is a quote from Oswell E. Spencer. "I was to become a god, creating a new world with an advanced race of human beings." That's Spencer to Albert Wesker shortly before he's dead. Okay, Dr. Oswell E. Spencer, or Earl Spencer, was an aristocratic British billionaire, virologist, and eugenicist. Did I pronounce that correctly? Eugenicist, I think is how you pronounce that word. Get to that in a second. One of the founders of Umbrella Pharmaceuticals, Lord Spencer was the CEO and president for its entire existence, which saw its expansion as the Umbrella Corporation over the 1980s, as well as its bankruptcy in 2003. A cold, ruthless, elitist, and ambitious individual, Spencer mercilessly eliminated his rivals and gradually increased his power within the company, which he strictly controlled behind a veil of darkness. He also had a hobby of art collecting and hunting. Spencer had a vision. I want you to pay close attention.
I feel you know more than the damn creators. Jesus laugh.
Who do we have in the live stream?
I feel you know more than the damn creators. Jesus laugh.
Platypus, do me a favor. There's a
Prove
problem
I feel
with
you know
the
more
comments
than the damn creators. Jesus laugh.
on my YouTube channel at the moment. So can you please retract? It seems to be okay now. If you can retract the comment, it usually helps. Okay, so once again, just to give you an update on what my YouTube channel is experiencing technical difficulties. Thank you, Platypus. YouTube channel is experiencing technical difficulties with the comments. When people leave comments, the comment gets repeated over and over again. And because I have my computer voice turned on, it makes it really annoying for both me and the viewers. So thank you for retracting the comments. So what you can do, there's a way around this. So you can leave the comment. You can still get interactive with me. So you can leave the comment, and then once you've left the comment, you can retract it. And I would have heard it from the computer voice anyway, so it's not like I wouldn't be able to see the message. So that's the quick workaround there. Yeah, I know a lot about this game. I'm actually reading it. Sorry, I should point out. I'm reading this from a wiki, but I did know a lot about Oswell E. Spencer. To be fair. Okay, Platypus, you are very welcome to Green-HillGaming, to my Resident Evil Village discussion. It's not necessarily a Resident Evil Village discussion, but I do believe, really strongly believe, that Oswell E. Spencer will play a huge part in Resident Evil Village, at least his background, his family history, and his family. Yeah. So, okay, let's continue. I want you to pay close attention to the next part here in relation to Resident Evil Village and the cult that is supposed to make an appearance in Resident Evil Village. Spencer had a vision to remake the world and lead it into a new era, seeing the world's current state as self-destructive. Does that not sound like somebody who is the leader of a cult? Come on. I gotta say though, I do agree with him. The world is in a current state of self-destruction. He intended to use the research data accumulated from the bioorganic weapons to carry his vision out and mold a utopia for mankind with himself as its ruler. Again, does that not sound like somebody who's involved in a cult? So, his early life. Now, unfortunately, I can't show this, but I'm looking back at an image of the Spencer coat of arms, which has a stone with the umbrella logo in the center. What would that remind you of? Maybe it will remind you of the Resident Evil Village trailer where you see an umbrella logo on a stone. And in the middle is an emblem, which looks very similar actually to in the Village trailer, in the castle part where the lady is sitting down on the phone, behind her is a door. There's an emblem on that door, and it looks a little bit like the Spencer coat of arms. Unfortunately, I can't show you that. Spencer was born into the prestigious Spencer family, considered for generations to be among the European elite. Growing up in his family's castle, overlooking a cliff on the British coastline, the young heir to the Spencer fortune was given a wide-ranging education. He began by studying the classics, early modern humanist Tertius, I can't pronounce some words, I'm sorry, and kept up to date with the mid-20th century eugenics movement. Now, just to give you a very quick
it's a YouTube
definition.
problem.
Unfortunately, it's a YouTube problem. Apologies about that problem, man. Honestly, man, I know it's extremely frustrating for both yourself and for me, but try not to, because my lovely voice, try not to worry too much about that. I am now going to give you a quick definition of what eugenics are all about. Eugenics is a set of beliefs and practices that aim to improve the genetic quality of a human population, historically by excluding people and groups judged to be inferior and promoting those judged to be superior. So it's basically a group of individuals who feel like there's certain people in society that are beneath them. They don't deserve to populate the world, but only people with superior genetics should be populating the world. Oswell E. Spencer was part of that movement. And that sounds very culty as well, I believe. And it does tie into what he wanted to do. He wanted to create an advanced race of superhumans where he was to be their god. Among his personal favourites was the Natural History Conspectus, a rare late Victorian encyclopedia which chronicled a 34-year trek through Africa by British explorer Henry Travis. Reaching adulthood, Spencer entered a prestigious university where he became close friends with James Marcus and Edward Ashford, the heir to the equally prestigious Ashford family. The three studied the emerging field of virology and formed, now pay close attention to this, and formed a eugenics circle with at least two other ennobled virologists, Lord Beardsley and Henry, a French comet, I don't know how to pronounce this. Marcus and Ashford frequently joined Spencer at his family castle, where he would shortly inherit. Now, I just want to touch base there on what we've just found out. Oswell E. Spencer and his buddies, James Marcus and Edward Ashford, they studied virology and formed a eugenics circle. Eugenics believing that the world should only be populated by superior races of human beings and excluded people who they believed were inferior. And they continued to meet up at Spencer's family castle. Okay? And then think of Resident Evil Village. There's a castle in it. Within that castle is an umbrella logo. Very cult-like themes from the Resident Evil Village trailer. What if Oswell E. Spencer and his friends basically were involved in a cult, a eugenics cult, where they wanted to create a new world of super intelligent, superior, genetically human beings, where he was to be their god. Founding of Umbrella, 1966 to 68. At the start of 1966, Spencer became engrossed once more in the Natural History Conspectus, having recalled an account about the Nipaya, a West African tribe of skilled engineers whose rituals involved a magical flower which granted great power to those who could survive its poison. While Spencer was initially treated with appropriate skepticism due to the allegations of yellow journalism on behalf of Travis, Marcus hypothesized that a virus could be naturally produced by the flower and mutate the consumer. The virus would theoretically hold great promise in eugenics. Interesting, the circle. So I want to touch base here, okay? These lads weren't sitting around and saying, let's create monsters and zombies and lickers and hunters and Mr. X's and Nemesis. Let's be this evil scientist. Let's sell biological weapons to terrorists and make money. Ha ha ha. No. They had this cult-like mentality where they felt like this flower and the virus contained in it could be critical in their study into eugenics. In order to disprove or confirm the flower's significance, the three organized an expedition to West Africa to find it. While Spencer's involvement is uncertain, Marcus travelled to West Africa on a several-month search for the Nipaya, with his with his friend, Brandon Bailey, and returned by February 1967 with proof of the virus' existence, having isolated it with the Sonnentrep flowers growing in the ruins of the Garden of the Sun. Soon after the research began, the Swiss university that Marcus worked at stopped him following allegations of falsified data, which itself led to the cessation of government grants to his projects. Spencer used this to his advantage and employed his charitable Spencer Foundation as a means of funding Marcus's research on the condition that he operate within the Spencer Estates lab and avoid contact with any scientist outside their circle. Understanding the foundation would not be able to fund the project in its entirety, Spencer approached the circle in March 1967. Now, again, look at this. Circle. Approached the circle. There's an inner circle going on here involving Oswell E. Spencer, Dr. James Marcus, and Dr. Ashford. And they're all about eugenics, creating a new world, a new era of superior genetically human beings, where he was to be their god. Understanding the foundation would not be able to fund the project in its entirety, Spencer approached the circle in March 1967 with a suggestion that they establish a pharmaceutical company in order to raise the necessary funds. So the only reason Umbrella Pharmaceuticals was established was to raise funds for their eugenics projects. Ashford and Marcus agreed to the project despite an overall disinterest, with Henry and Beardsley joining. Towards the end of the year, work concluded on a mansion built on Spencer's behalf in the Arklay Mountains, a mountain range in American Midwest, Raccoon City. Let's add that in there. The mansion itself was built atop limestone caverns, which Spencer planned to use for a construction of an underground laboratory complex that would be hidden from public view. The biggest flaw in this construction project was that he chose a famous New York architect named George Trevor, known for his surreal design, which Spencer admired, to build it. Upon its completion, Spencer realized that Trevor knew all of the mansion's secrets, including the existence of an underground laboratory, and panicked. Spencer quickly made plans to dispose of Trevor, so that only he and his inner circle would know of the lab's existence. In November 1967, Spencer invited the entire Trevor family, including George, his wife Jessica, and 14-year-old daughter Lisa, to the house to celebrate the completion of the mansion. Unbeknownst to the Trevor family, Spencer planned to use them all as test subjects in his progenitor research. Progenitor being the name for the very first virus that James Marcus and Dr. Ashford and Spencer would be working on, that would have came from that flower. Due to a busy workload, George could not attend, but told Jessica and Lisa that he would join them at the house later. As soon as the two arrived on November 10th, my birthday, dun dun dun, they were dragged away by Spencer's employees and taken into the underground caverns as human research subjects for the progenitor virus. Jessica died soon after infection, though Lisa survived the mutations. As George arrived at the mansion, he was captured just the same, but escaped from his room. He eventually fell victim to one of his own traps and died. Lisa was kept as a test subject and would finally die in 1998. At some point in the late 1960s, Spencer worked with another scientist who shared his eugenics ideals, Dr. Wesker, believing that would be useful to mankind if they could be trusted with its powers. Spencer concluded that the genetically superior humans had to share his values to become the superhuman. Umbrella began abducting children with superior genes and intellect from around the world and raising them with access to the finest education that money could buy. Upon reaching adulthood, Umbrella would determine the cream of the crop and infect them. The highly classified project was dubbed the Wesker Project, in the name of its leader. With Umbrella established, Spencer became increasingly paranoid that his friends would threaten his own eugenics project, which he intended to steer towards making him a god in a new world order. Does that not sound cult-like to you? Although he already controlled the project by 1967, when he secured Marcus's research, Spencer's paranoia...
Hello, boy, what the story?
Hello, who do we have in the live
Hello,
stream?
boy, what the story?
Hello, Dad. There's a problem with the comments
Hello,
on my
boy, what the story?
YouTube channel. If you can figure out how to do it, can you retract your
Hello,
comment?
boy, what the story?
If you can remove the comment, if you can figure that out, please. I'll make it easier for you. I'll just remove
Hello,
it.
boy, what the story?
I am doing very good, Dad. Thanks so much for dropping by the live stream. How are you keeping? Hope that you're keeping well. There's something up on my YouTube with comments. When people leave comments, the comment gets repeated over and over again, so it's really annoying for me and for you also. So if you can figure out how to do it, if you can leave a comment and then retract the comment, that's the way to fix it. Although he already controlled the project by 1967 when he secured Marcus's research, Spencer's paranoia escalated in 1968 while running Umbrella Pharmaceuticals. To produce more funding for the eugenics project, now listen to this.
Yes.
Umbrella entered a secret agreement with the United States military to produce biological weaponry and began further projects to...
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to have to remove the comment for you. There's a problem with my YouTube comments, so if you can try to refrain from leaving comments, that would help too. Just sit back and relax and hear all about Oswell E. Spencer. So to procure more funding for the eugenics project, Umbrella entered a secret agreement with the United States military to produce biological weaponry and began further projects to create mutant virus strains for military use. So the only reason Umbrella Pharmaceuticals got into the area of biological weaponry was to get money from the United States military.
I did.
You have to keep doing it though. There's a problem. You have to keep retracting the comment. So when you leave a comment, you're going to have to retract that comment, and the same for the next one as well. I know it's annoying. It sounds a bit complicated. I'll tell you about it properly after on Facebook. But nonetheless, thanks so much for dropping by the live stream and enjoy. The Umbrella founders each worked separately on what they dubbed the T-Virus project. Rather than perform his own research, Spencer left the Arkleigh laboratory under the control of trusted executives and further worked with Lord Beardsley and Lord Henry. Marcus and Bailey continued to work on their own, while Ashford worked alongside his son, Alexander, at their European home. With progenitor cultures becoming too limited in number for large-scale research on the T-Virus project, it became clear that Marcus and Bailey would have to travel to West Africa to secure more. Unlike the previous trek, Spencer instead hired mercenaries to force the Nepaya off their land and secure the Garden of the Sun for Umbrella's own exclusive use. When news reached them about this success, Bailey was sent alone to cultivate the progenitor samples at a lab built there, isolating him from Marcus. Marcus himself was given his own laboratory in the Arkleigh Mountains close to Spencer's own. The Umbrella Executive Training School served a dual role as both a laboratory for the T-Virus project and as a boarding school for gifted children headhunted by the Spencer Foundation as promising new executive scientists. The first true victim of Spencer's paranoia was Ashford, who would die from exposure to his primitive T-Virus strain in a staged lab accident. While his son Alexander was a scientist, he was trained in genetics rather than virology and was consequently unable to continue his father's work. This left only Marcus as the main competitor to Spencer, and so efforts were taken to steal Marcus's data for the benefit of Arkle's laboratory. Securing power 1977 to 98. In 1977, the Spencer Foundation headhunted Albert Wesker for a job at Umbrella after he acquired a doctorate in virology at just age 17. Sent to the executive training school, Spencer ensured that Wesker and a fellow student, William Birkin, would abuse Marcus's trust in them and steal his research data. At the end of the school year, Spencer ordered the school and lab to be shut down, cutting Marcus off from his research staff and the children he used as test subjects. Wesker and Birkin were immediately assigned to the Arkle laboratory to take over as its chief researchers and use their knowledge of Marcus's research to drastically alter the Arkle laboratory's own T-virus project. Despite Spencer's near-total control over Umbrella, his paranoia continued to find new victims as Umbrella expanded to the point of possessing its own paramilitary, the Umbrella Security Service. Marcus continued to perform his own dedicated research into the late 1980s, hoping to use this to his advantage in securing the support of the board of directors and taking over the company. With Marcus now an immediate threat, Spencer ordered a USS raid on the training school, and he was gunned down in 1988 with Birkin and Wesker in order to steal more research data. That same year, he personally backed their proposals in acquiring a Nemesis A parasite from France's No. 6 laboratory. As Umbrella entered the 1990s, Spencer continued to take a direct role in the company's affairs despite his advancing age and confinement to a wheelchair. Beardley and Henry would both perish over the next decade, with their research inherited by their respective children, Mylene and Christine, both of whom were child prodigies. Deeply interested in the newly discovered Galata virus, which was being studied by Birkin and Christine in France, Spencer founded a new nest facility in Raccoon City for the G-Virus project. And if you know anything about the G-Virus, it's all about the virus selecting specific hosts with a specific type of genes, which connects to Spencer's interest in I forgot what it's called. Bear with me. Eugenics. His interest in eugenics. Although intrigued by the virus's potential use in eugenics, it was instead funded as another bioweapon project for the US military. So if you look here, the only reason the Umbrella Corporation were involved with biological weapons was to make them for the US military. Therefore, the US military would give Umbrella money and funding that can fund Oswell E. Spencer's eugenics projects. An alternative eugenics project was assigned to Dr. Alex Wesker, one of the Wesker Project subjects who Spencer became personally close to. Spencer awarded her with greater executive power, though the construction of a laboratory at Sonido de Targago. He also developed a close relationship with Colonel Sergei Vladimir, a Spetsnaz officer whom the Soviet Union had used in a human cloning trial during the Afghan War. In exchange for handling his 10 clones over for research for the fledgling Tyrant project, Vladimir became a powerful asset in protecting Spencer's control over the company. End of Umbrella, 1998 to 2003. In May 1998, the Arkle laboratory was sabotaged by one of Dr. Marcus's creations, Queen Leech. Its entire staff was either killed or infected, and escaped the BOW's biological weapons drew national attention in their killings of out-of-state hikers. As part of the X-Day continuity, Albert Wesker sent 2 elite law enforcement teams from STARS to the mansion to investigate. However, unbeknownst to these STARS officers, they were deliberately pitted against Arkle's escaped BOWs for the purpose of collecting combat data. Wesker's own orders were fourfold: gather this combat data, salvage whatever research he could from the Arkle lab, ensure the death of the STARS members, and destroy the lab so the truth of Umbrella's responsibility could never get out. Spencer's right-hand man, Colonel Vladimir, was also sent in personally for the task of recovering an experimental Tyrant and Umbrella's UMF-013 supercomputer. While Vladimir was successful, Wesker instead chose to fake his own death and hand the data over to a rival company. While several STARS members escaped from the mansion, intent on beginning a police investigation of Umbrella. In the immediate fallout, an executive named Morpheus D. Duvall was scapegoated for the containment failure and began a bioterror plot to steal the viral samples in vengeance. Publicly, the so-called mansion incident did not harm Umbrella, thanks to its influence over the local Raccoon City media, police and local government. However, a combination of this incident, Albert Wesker's betrayal, and Spencer's own refusal to admit Dr. Birkin to his inner circle would be the trigger for Umbrella's downward spiral. Dr. Birkin, slighted by Spencer's rejection, dumped the T-virus around Raccoon City in order to neutralize the other Umbrella facilities, while he himself prepared to hand the G-virus over to the US military, who were intent on starting their own bioweapons project. In exchange for protection, Spencer learned of Birkin's planned betrayal and sent Umbrella security services to take Birkin into custody and acquire the G-virus. When Birkin refused to comply, an Umbrella soldier gunned him down, and the team proceeded to take his suitcase, which contained all of his work, with them. However, the fatally wounded Birkin still had one G-virus sample left in his possession and used it on himself, mutating into a powerful monster in the process. The now mutated Dr. Birkin pursued Umbrella soldiers into the sewers and slaughtered most of them, although Hunk survived. This altercation accidentally caused several T-virus samples to fall to the floor and break, and infect the virus into the city's water supply. Over the next week, the city collapsed into anarchy as thousands of infected took part in cannibalistic murders. Aware that Raccoon City was doomed, and the company no longer capable of lobbying against the Senate's committee action, Spencer ordered Vladimir to recover the UMF-013 from Raccoon City and take it to a safe location. On October 1st, 1998, Spencer awoke to the news of the US president's bombings of the city. By this point, Umbrella's responsibility had become public knowledge, and the US Congress voted in an act to liquidate Umbrella's USA branch and ban the company from conducting any future business in the country. In 1989, Spencer assembled expert lawyers, fake witnesses, and bribes during the Raccoon trials to divert all responsibility to the US government. He also purchased an abandoned chemical plant in the Kharkov region of southern Russia and commissioned the construction of a secret underground laboratory which would become the de facto base of operations for Umbrella. Unwilling to acknowledge their breaching of international law to obtain bioweaponry or even acknowledge BOWs in general, the US government remained in a stalemate with Umbrella. This stalemate ended in early 2003 when Albert Wesker leaked experts of the recovered UMF-013 data to the court. Wesker handed over Umbrella to America. Umbrella was found liable for damages and subsequently bankrupt. An international arrest warrant on Spencer was filed by both the United States and Russian Federation. Spencer, now an international fugitive, secluded himself in his family estate where he would spend the remaining years of his life. Final years, 2003 to 2006. This is another quote from Oswell E. Spencer. "When one buries a treasure, one should not leave behind a map." Experts from a journal entry regarding Spencer's plan to eliminate executives. Intent on establishing a future successor to Umbrella. That's interesting. He was intent on establishing a future successor to Umbrella. What's to say that isn't the Connections? What's to say that isn't this newly reformed Umbrella that now Chris is working for? Again, all of this, in my opinion, ties into Resident Evil Village. I strongly believe that Oswell E. Spencer's background or his family will play a large role in Resident Evil Village. Intent on establishing a future successor to Umbrella, Spencer was obsessive in maintaining what little order he had left. Right after the Raccoon City bombing in November 1988, he ordered a purge of senior executive staff to prevent the United States from ever learning about Progenitor. Over the next few years, he had little to no contact with the outside. Seen only by his loyalist bodyguards and his butler Patrick, his increasingly erratic behaviour coincided with his depression and failing health. However, intent on surviving long enough to see the rebirth of his organisation, Spencer ordered Alex Wesker to begin research into a mutagenic virus capable of restoring his youth, and supplied her with funding, equipment, research material, several hundred test subjects, and a research facility on Sunnydale Island to his end. Alex herself had no love for Spencer and betrayed him, just like her brother Albert. Disappearing after the project's success and taking the results, her researchers, subordinates, and the virus itself to the island in the Baltic Sea. Death. This is another quote from Oswald E. Spencer. "I was to become a god, creating a new world with an advanced race of human beings. However, all was lost with Raccoon City. Despite that setback, your creation still holds great significance. Now my candle burns dimly. Ironic, isn't it, for someone who has the right to be a god to face his own mortality." Spencer's final words to Wesker. By 2006, Spencer was close to death. He lacked the strength to eat solid foods and spent most of his days sitting in his study. In a desperate last effort to survive, he ordered Patrick to assist him in the development of a new virus by using test subjects confined beneath the Spencer estate in the hopes of healing his body. As these experiments led to several failed mutations, Spencer realized that his death was inevitable. He conceded that he would never realize his plan himself and enlisted Patrick to leak information on his location to Albert Wesker through an associate. Spencer then dismissed Patrick from his duties and was left only his bodyguards at the estate waiting for Wesker to find him. In August 2006, Wesker entered the castle and brutally murdered Spencer's guards before heading into Spencer's private office. In their meeting, Spencer explained the Wesker project to him and why he himself was infected with a progenitor virus strain. However, Spencer lied when he claimed he was the sole survivor of the Wesker project, probably in order to keep him focused on his goal and prevent him from pursuing Alex. In general, Wesker was disinterested in Spencer's vision, and while not expecting this frail old man to much competition to his own goals, nevertheless decided to tie him up at a loose end. He brutally killed Spencer by knife-handling him through the chest, proclaiming that Spencer was not capable of being a god and as such never had the right to aspire to that goal. Legacy. Even before his death, Spencer left a dark legacy throughout the viral research that he conducted throughout his life that would plague the world with large-scale decimation of bioterrorism. Due to his negligence in not being able to deal directly with the constant leaks and dissertations of his dishonest employees during Umbrella's final years, this allowed them to start selling BOWs to their rivals in the bioweapons black market since 1998, which culminated in the proliferation of countless outbreaks around the planet during the first decade of the 21st century, causing the deaths of thousands of people as a result. Overall, this made Spencer directly responsible for all of the viral events that affected the world even after his death. The end. And that is who Oswald E. Spencer was. And I feel very strongly that his background, or potentially his family, could very well play a huge role in Resident Evil Village. I have a few good cases to back that up, and I think one of the biggest cases is Oswell E. Spencer's goals. You know, his goal to be a god of a new world inhabited by superhumans, super intelligent human beings with superior genetics and intelligence. He was to become a god. He studied eugenics, which again is a movement that believes that the world should only be populated and repopulated by humans who have superior genetics, and they exclude those who they feel have inferior genetics. It's a scientific form of racism. It's a scientific form of racism, is what it is, basically. They exclude minority races. They exclude people with mental health issues. They exclude criminals. They exclude people who they believe are beneath them. Oswell E. Spencer had an inner circle. An inner eugenics circle involving himself and his friends, Dr. James Marcus and Dr. Ashford. They all studied eugenics, and they all had this vision of creating a new world of superhumans with superior intelligence and genetics. That's very cult-like, in my opinion. Very, very cult-like, extremely cult-like, okay? Now, if you look, again, at Resident Evil Village, you look at the reveal trailer, you get a very cult-like vibe from what you're seeing. You see a big, massive castle that looks very like one of the Spencer estates. And Oswell E. Spencer had many estates and castles and mansions built for him throughout the entire world. So what's to say that the castle that we see in Resident Evil Village isn't actually one of his other estates? And what's to say that the females that we see in the castle could be his family, could be related to him, or they could be worshipping him, they could be worshipping his legacy. Okay? And also in that mansion in that castle, you see an umbrella logo. Why is there an umbrella logo there? I believe that the design of the castle, the way that those women are dressed looks very aristocratic. It looks very Spencer-esque. So I do think very strongly, after everything I just said about Oswell E. Spencer and his history and ties to the eugenics movement, very cult-like movement, very scientific racism kind of cult-like movement where, you know, they believe that, you know, human beings who are heavily intelligent and who have superior genetics should be the only people to populate the world. That's very racist, really, scientific racism. Very cult-like, isn't it? So I think that ties into, it could possibly tie into, you know, the cult-like themes that we see in Resident Evil Village. And also bear in mind that a lot of what Resident Evil Village is going to be about, in terms of the flashlight gameplay, the emphasis on apparent paranormal activity, and and this big massive castle looks very similar to the original Resident Evil 4 that was in development. That development went through many phases. One of those phases was the castle phase, where you had Leon Kennedy infiltrating Spencer's castle to take him down, and Leon had a torch and he was fighting ghosts and everything. So I do believe there's a strong case to be made that Oswell E. Spencer's background, or his family, his legacy, the legacy of Oswell E. Spencer will make a huge appearance in Resident Evil Village. And if you just take one thing away from what I said, just focus on Oswell E. Spencer's goals, which was all about eugenics. It was all about creating highly intelligent human beings with superior genetics, and he used viruses to achieve that. He used biological research to achieve that. And as you heard as well, he had no interest in biological weapons. The only reason the Umbrella Corporation engaged in bioweaponry was to sell the biological weapons to the US military to get an extreme amount of finance and funding to fund their eugenics movement. I'm telling you, there was very few people. And I knew a lot about Oswell E. Spencer. I knew a lot about him. There were certain things I didn't know about him until looking into that Wikipedia about the fact that he studied eugenics. But I did know that about him, and I knew his original goals and his original intentions, which was to become a god of a new world of superhumans, humans with superior genetics and extreme intelligence. I knew all about that. But you'd be surprised the amount of die-hard Resident Evil fans that will know that, and they think that, like, oh, Umbrella is all about biological weapons. That was what they started out with. That's all they cared about. No, they didn't. At least not from the point of view of its founding fathers, anyway, because they were only interested in eugenics. So I think that what Capcom could be doing with Resident Evil Village is exploring the original background behind the foundation of the Umbrella Corporation. Why was it founded? And I think it's going to go down the road of the eugenics movement that Spencer was involved in. And I think that his family and legacy could play a huge part in Resident Evil Village. That is the end. That is the end of my Resident Evil Village discussion live stream. Once again, watch this space. I strongly believe that Oswald E. Spencer's legacy will play a huge role in Resident Evil Village. So that's everything you need to know really about Oswald E. Spencer. And again, the key points to take away is Oswald E. Spencer had no intention of creating biological weapons and to sell them in the black market. His intentions were to be involved in this inner circle, this inner eugenics circle, and create a new world where he was to be the god of superhumans, really intelligent humans with superior genetics and intelligence. That was his goal, and he used viruses to achieve that goal. Just take that away, and then think about Resident Evil Village, and think about what you see in that trailer. Think about the themes of occultism, that big castle that is, in my opinion, 100% Spencer related. Remember the Umbrella logo that you see. Just remember all those things. But thank you so much for watching. Hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you next time in Green-HillGaming, and hopefully the comments will be fixed by then. Okay, dokie. Thank you so much.
Hey there, Johnny boy.
Oh, you've literally joined at the very end. 2 people have joined at the very end.
Boy.
Oh,
hello.
God. Comments are still acting up. This is literally the end of the live stream. Chat, I'm so sorry, and watching you, I'm watching you as well. Apologies, but this is literally the end of the live stream, but I would highly recommend going back to the very beginning of the stream and enjoy. And I will see you next time on Green-HillGaming.